Hello and welcome to this Aftermaths episode of the Primary Maths Podcast, the show where we talk all things primary maths. With me, John Cripwell.
And with me, Becky Brown.
Hello, Becky. How are you?
Hello.
Melting, I guess.
Yes. I've got a thermometer next to my computer. It's currently 29.8 degrees. So nice and hot down here. But, you know, at least we haven't got to stand in front of a classroom of children and teach them, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. I was just thinking exactly the same thing, that there is possibly no worse place to be during a heat wave than in a classroom where the windows open a fraction of an inch and you're not allowed to have the outside door open because in our case it opened out onto the front of the school and that wasn't allowed. So yes, I sympathise for anybody teaching during this particular week, this particular heat wave, because it is, not a comfortable place to be.
No.
So well done to everybody surviving it. Although, as we were just saying before we started recording, Becky, some schools have actually closed, haven't they?
They have, yes. Down here, definitely, there's quite a few schools closed. I think they've managed the last couple of days, but taken temperatures from inside buildings for the reasons you've just said. You know, that schools aren't really set up for this heat, are they? So they made a decision to close. So, yeah, we've got a few school closures.
And I think it makes sense. I know it's not ideal, but it makes sense when you're not going to get that much learning done anyway, are you? And genuinely, when it gets over 30 degrees, it's more than just uncomfortable, isn't it? It could potentially become a bit of a risk. So totally understand any schools that have taken that stance.
I think you can see the physical effects of it, and you're sweaty and maybe a bit hot and red in the face, but also your brain does. I mean, I don't know what the science is. There probably is some, but
are we making excuses for this episode already, Becky? Before we've even got into it, we just need everybody to know that during a heat wave, our brains do not work as well. We're not sure that that's scientific, but it's definitely anecdotal.
Yes.
But yeah, no, that makes sense, doesn't it? When you are more sluggish, you are more tired, not sleeping as well at night and things like that. So yeah, I think it's not conducive to the best learning possible, is it? But for anybody that is slogging their way through it anyway, my hat off to you. Make sure you get a nice ice pop or ice cream or something. It used to be lovely when somebody would go out to the shop at lunchtime and bring back multi-packs of ice creams or ice pops or ice poles or whatever you call them down there, Becky. The frozen things that you share out between staff and things. That was really nice. But I guess if you are one of the schools that's closed at the moment, one of the jobs that you might be catching up on is report writing, because we are probably coming towards the end, actually, of report writing season, aren't we? It's one of those jobs that I never, ever looks forward to as a teacher.
No.
I used to hate writing reports.
Yeah, me too. And I don't think it was... I loved, that bit normally at the top or the beginning where you're just doing a general comment about your children. I loved that bit because I felt like, that was really personal and really, talking about the general overall progress of that child. But when you have to start then delving a bit deeper and going into subject specific, and you have to mention certain things and curriculum objectives, I think it all just becomes a little bit less. As a parent, that was the bit that I enjoyed reading. I
was going to say, we're both parents, aren't we? And the first thing that I go to every single time is the general comment. I want to know, are they happy? Are they settled? Do they have friends? Are they working hard? Are they making progress? And tell me something that shows that my child in a way. Do you know what I mean? Because it's nice to read, isn't it? It's nice to read that. I used to cheat a little bit, I suppose, but in a really nice way, in so much as, because I was in year 6 for most of my teaching experience, I used to get the children to write their own little reflection on the school year. Now, what was their favourite memory? What was, their favourite topic that we did? What was their favourite lesson and things? And that just used to help me to say with some certainty, actually Becky really enjoyed our PE lessons this year, and she enjoyed our trip to Whitehall to the residential and things. And then I could mix in some of my own comments on those things, which just, it was a nice way of doing it. But when it came to, we had to and every school does this differently, don't they? But we had to write a comment as well for maths and for English reading and writing. And because it was a Church of England school, the last school that I worked at, we had an RE comment as well to write. And then, fortunately, the other subjects, the foundation subjects, we had to give an attainment level, expected, greater than, working towards. In fact, I think we got rid of the greater than in the end because we realised there were no indications in the curriculum for what working at greater than expected level looks like in those subjects, whereas obviously there are in English, certainly for writing, and an effort grade as well. And I always used to find that the maths ones, even though I love maths, the maths and the English ones quite tricky to write because there's so much that you can cover. There's so much coverage, isn't there, in the year? And we used to set out what the topics had been that they covered in that year group. So that was kind of already there. So I didn't want to repeat myself by saying, we've done fractions this year and they're very good at fractions or whatever. So I used to find them quite tricky to write. And I was never sure that they were actually particularly valuable. I think as a parent, what you want to know is, are they attaining what they should be attaining? Are they working hard? And is there anything that I can do to help them? That's probably the key bit, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It is hard, isn't it? I think you're right. Schools do it in lots of different ways. I mean, I've worked in schools where I've had to write comments for everything, every single subject. And I think in my first year of teaching, I actually had to do some handwriting as well.
Yeah.
At least now you could do it on the computer, but having to write all by hand, and then if you made a mistake, there was a big issue because you had to tip exit or photocopy it or something. So I think lots of things have made it easier. But yeah,
definitely. I mean, there are AI tools as well, aren't they? Twinkle, we've got an AI report writing tool. And again, as with all things AI, I think it's a useful tool as part of the process. You can put in, get some ideas of some statements that you might use, and then you can personalize it, can't you, and make it your own. I would never want to, as a parent, read something that had been written entirely by AI because that just makes it feel like it's you're losing that expertise, aren't you? And the whole purpose of this is that it's written by somebody that's certainly at primary school that's known your child for a year in most cases. So I think we need to be slightly careful of just verbatim publishing whatever AI spits out. But as you say, we've come a long way. There are AI tools now that can definitely help us, and writing on a computer makes things easier as well. As assistant head and phase leader, I used to have to read everybody's reports from my phase, and it definitely became easier the last few years as things like grammar checks and spell checks and things came in. That was always quite a nice job though, reading everybody else's reports. Give you some ideas of what to put in your own as well.
Yeah, definitely. I always equated May half term with writing reports, so I feel like that was sort of around about the time that I was writing reports, but it isn't a job that I necessarily miss, no.
So I used to think of May half term as the time for writing reports as well. And then I would usually start them towards the end of June. So yeah, best intentions, Becky. You just know how busy summer term is. It's just ludicrous, isn't it? It creeps up on you, and then all of a sudden you realise you've got 10 million jobs to do. So for anybody in the middle of report writing or proofreading or whatever in this heat, I hope it's all going well, and just try and bear in mind what the purpose of them are. I suppose is that for parents, what do they really want to know? And I think when it comes to maths, that key thing is, what is it that's going to help them progress further or close a gap if there is one, or stretch them if that's what they need. Because parents don't know that. They don't have that expertise. They don't know what's coming up in the next year group. And so often I think something around fluency is a really good target to have, because it's something that parents can help them with. If it's something very specific, like they didn't do very well in ratio, well, that's trickier, isn't it? I think that's something for the next teacher to know, maybe, but not necessarily that parents are going to work on them with.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's thinking about what the purpose of the report is, isn't it? It can become a very definite admin task.
Yes.
It's about sharing that information on the children in the best way so the parents are able to help in the best way that they can, and also
Absolutely.
be aware of what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. So other things happening in summer too. I was thinking, Becky, often in math schemes, there's sort of a block in summer two that's called something vague like consolidation, or sometimes problem solving, or using and applying and things. And so I was thinking about this idea that problem solving is something that we do uh, in summer too, because we're not sure what else to do. Certainly for year 6, I think that's often the case. Other year groups, maybe they continue with some of the curriculum, or it's about trying to plug gaps and things that maybe you need to catch up on through the year. But there's definitely, for some teachers I've spoken to recently, I was watching some training from one of the RISE experts, and they were talking about slowing down the curriculum and using that consolidation in year 6, that consolidation / problem solving block at the end of the year to catch up on things that maybe you'd not managed to cover before the SATs. So I just, as our resident problem solving expert, Becky, I just wondered about your thoughts on this idea of schemes that leave problem solving till summer too. I can probably guess at what you're going to say here, but
Yeah.
I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Well, yeah, I mean, any problem solving that's happening is going to be good, in my opinion, if it's happening. However, I would argue that if you're getting to that point in the year where you're maybe doing some rich investigative problem solving, things like that, what you will, if you haven't done it up until this point, what you're probably going to find is a lot of frustration. And actually, it's not quite as fun as you planned it to be for you or your children. I think I mean, absolutely, you can use this time to embed strategies, teach strategies which will help them in the next year. But I think if you haven't given any time over, maybe because your scheme hasn't allowed for it, possibly, if you haven't given any time over to the explicit teaching of those strategies until now, it's going to be very difficult to do that alongside lots of problem solving as well. We've talked a lot about just giving children more and more problems isn't making problem solvers, but they definitely need that instruction. And it's never too late. This could be a great time to do that, couldn't it? You could use this time to think, okay, I'm going to do some real strategic teaching here. And then next year, they're going to be in a much better position to be able to tackle problems throughout the year.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you talk about the explicit teaching of problem solving skills, I think we've mentioned this before, but remind me what those 6 skills are, or we'll see if we can remember them between us. I'm putting you on the spot here, Becky. But I reckon you've got this. I reckon you've got this. So for our point of view, we've identified 6 key skills or strategies or tools that children might use in order to help them access problem solving activities. And when I say access, I mean that because we're not necessarily saying that you would use these to solve the problem, the maths within the problem. You might need a different method in order to solve the maths inside the problem. But we know that one of the problems with problem solving, one of the tricky things about problem solving, is actually often the maths isn't particularly hard, but knowing what to do and working out how to find out what to do is the tricky bit. So we've identified 6 areas, 6 skills. And those are, Becky, drum roll, please. Those are.
So our 6 overarching strategies, and we know absolutely that you wouldn't necessarily just use one strategy to solve a problem, but feel that explicitly teaching them in isolation is a good idea before you move on to strategic choice, are spotting patterns, working systematically, using models, trialing and improving, changing the process, and making connections. And those are the overarching strategy. Obviously, within each one of those, there's a whole load of sub-strategies that you might use, but those are the 6 overarching strategies that we're suggesting for teaching problem solving.
And I think it's fair to say that all of those things come through other areas of maths in some way as well, don't they? So, spotting patterns, something that humans are inherently good at anyway. We are pattern spotting machines, really. It's why we spot coincidences and things like that, and read meaning into things more readily than perhaps other creatures do, because we're very good at spotting patterns and trying to make sense of them and things. So these are wider skills, aren't they, in maths and also in life as well. Working systematically, just a good skill to have, I think, generally. And making connections is something that we talk about across maths all the time, isn't it? It's one of the fundamental ways that we can help children to understand how accessible maths can be, is to help them make connections that open up their understanding of maths. So now is possibly a good time to be exploring some of those things. But I think our recommendation would be, rather than leaving it till the end of the year, actually, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Becky, but there's no coincidence that we've come up with 6 overarching strategies, is it?
No,
and there happens to be 6 half terms in a school year.
Yeah, I think when I've spoken to lots of teachers and customers, when we've been talking about problem solving, we've talked a lot about how, we know we should be teaching problem solving, but how do we squeeze it in? And actually, our new Planet Math scheme shows that it is possible. We have left a specific chunk of time. It's only two or three lessons at the start of each half term that you might use to explicitly teach that skill. So you're building up that toolkit over the year. And by the time you get to this point, you've now got that full toolkit to draw on to do all your lovely rich maths at the end of the year.
And the nice thing is that the skills stay the same, don't they, all the way from year 1 through till year 6. So it's not like we're doing pot and spatting. Oh no, I'm really struggling now. Pattern spotting. It's not like we're doing that in year 1 and never coming back to it again. It's not the 6 years that we're learning these. It's once a half term in every year group, isn't it? So we're building on these skills as they move through. And I think it's something I've been very passionate about for a long while. I know you have too, Becky. This idea that, and we've talked about it on the podcast before, that you can't just give children a problem and say, have a go at solving this, if we've never taught them how to do that before. Some children will get it because they've got these skills already, and some children won't. And so, I just think I'm really excited about this as an approach to helping pupils become better problem solvers. So you don't have to use our resources to do that, but if you are interested in finding out more about those, I'll put a link in the comments to it, where you can go and find out more about the problem solving resources that we've created. But also, we should flag up that we've done some specific training on this, haven't we, Becky? You more so than me, to be fair. But so far, we've done 3 live events on working systematically, pattern spotting. Be careful how I say that now, and using models. And those are available on the Twinkle website to go and view if you've got a membership. And we've got 3 more coming up, starting again in September. So look out for details of those. They are completely free. Even if you don't have a membership, they're completely free to attend. If you the only time you need a membership is if you want to go back and watch the recording afterwards and you haven't previously signed up to do so. That's right, isn't it, Becky? I'm pretty sure that's correct at time of publishing. Yes. So do look out for those if you're interested. And just one more small plug for our resources, because the scheme of work that has been in development for a little while now. We've had a scheme of work actually at Twinkle for a while called Planet Maths. It has been completely redeveloped, completely redesigned from the ground up. Every single lesson revisited, the sequence revisited, the pedagogy revisited, the whole works. And I'm really proud of how it looks now, because it's fantastic and definitely a resource that I would use. So far, we've released the units on how to teach time, and they're, I want to say, revolutionary, really, Becky, in our approach to teaching time. And now the units on place value are there as well, because we know that those will be the ones that you'll want to teach in September. And so if you want to have a look at those units, they're on the Twinkle website now. Just have a look for place value Planet Maths, and you'll find them. And by September, the whole of autumn and most of spring term will be available on the website as well. And I think sometime in October, the whole year's scheme will the entirety of the scheme will be available on the website too. So do go and check that out if you're thinking about changing schemes, or you are looking for something to supplement your current scheme with. Go and have a look at the Planet Maths resources. Now, Becky, we've had an email from Priya, who is a maths lead at primary school in Coventry, and she said some lovely things about the podcast, which is what you need to say if you want to get your email read out on the show. But her question is: I've been trying to get more problem solving into lessons, but the pushback that I'm getting from colleagues is that the children haven't secured the fluency either in methods or in number, etc. And so they're finding it really hard to access the problem solving scenarios. And I'm not sure how to respond to that. What can she do? So just to summarize the problem, they want to do more problem solving, but the barrier seems to be that the children haven't got the knowledge yet in order to solve the problems that they're being given. Have you got any thoughts on that, Becky?
Yeah, a couple of things. So I think the first thing is that we do tend to think of the 3 strands of the maths curriculum as almost going from fluency to reasoning to problem solving.
Like a hierarchy.
Yes. And actually, in reality, all 3 should be working together all the way through. So there is that just to bear in mind as well. I think that's often why we don't often get to the problem solving, because it comes at the end, or some children don't ever get to it, which is something that incidentally the new Planet scheme has thought about as well. But equally,
one of the nice models, sorry, Becky, just thinking about the models for the curriculum, rather than seeing it as a pyramid of fluency, reasoning, problem solving, seeing it as sort of an intertwined rope almost, with the 3 strands forming the body of the rope. Sometimes I've seen it with fluency being kind of the core, and then reasoning and problem solving wrapped around that. But either way you look at it, I think the point that you're making is that problem solving shouldn't be left as an additional part. It is one of the core principles of the curriculum, and that doesn't sound like it's going to change with the changes to the curriculum that are on the horizon.
And I think it is hard because when you look at the curriculum, of course, as far as the maths knowledge goes, you've got a very clear broken down list of what you need to cover. With problem solving, it is obviously going to be harder, and the skills are not as visible or as easily assessed. However, I think, yes, absolutely, the children need to have any maths knowledge to tackle a particular problem. We have, in our problem solving resources, we have specifically used knowledge from previous year groups, so you can teach it anywhere in the year, and it's not teaching the maths as well, because I think that's the problem. It's very hard to teach the problem solving skill and the maths knowledge at the same time. So it might just be a case of finding problems where maybe the maths knowledge is from prior year groups, or maybe you might be thinking, oh well, actually the maths here is really easy. If you're teaching the skill of problem solving, it could be that's not the hard, that's the hard bit. So we need to maybe make the maths a bit easier so that we can really focus on the teaching of that skill.
Yeah, it's what do you want to get out of it, isn't it? Because I would say actually sometimes you can teach a mathematical concept through problem solving, provided that the problem is really accessible, and so it's the maths that then you're thinking about. Quite often some of our Planet Maths lessons might start with a problem or something to discuss at least, but it will be something that is familiar already. It's not a brand new concept, and I quite like that idea sometimes of actually starting with something that you can discuss and talk about and reason about and things. But that would be a familiar sort of problem scenario, if you like, a problem structure that they're already familiar with, a routine problem, perhaps, if you want to look at it that way. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. There's a difference, isn't there, between are we giving non-routine problems where the maths is unfamiliar and the problem is unfamiliar, in which case we're really setting them up to fail there, aren't we? Or are we thinking about it more clearly and thinking, okay, well, I've taught them this maths, now we're going to apply it in an unfamiliar situation. That's one thing. And as you say, to access that, you might need particular skills, which we've already discussed. Or am I thinking, I want them to notice something about the maths here? It's a small step beyond what they already know, but I'm going to show it through a problem where they're familiar with the concept and the structure, and I'm going to draw attention to something through the problem solving process. So it's being really clear about that, isn't it? And that's the problem with what I used to do in my early days of teaching, which was go on the internet, find some problems, download them, and throw them at the children and say, have a go at those. That, I can tell you from experience, does not work.
No.
It does work for a couple of children because they love it and will absolutely run with it. But I would say for the majority, actually, it's just frustrating and confusing and not particularly helpful in terms of building confidence in maths. So, yeah, going back to what's the problem? Why is that thing, isn't it, Becky? Why this? Why now? Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
What is it that we want? What's the clear objective of doing this? And being really specific then about how am I going to help them to do that?
Yeah, it's as you said, just finding any old problem and thinking, oh, that's a year 5 problem, I'll do that, is probably not the best approach. It's that balance, and you're absolutely right. Problem solving happens in lots of different ways, through investigative tasks, through talking in discussion, in lessons, but always having an awareness of what you actually want, what you're actually teaching, and that may not be knowledge. Teaching skills, it's so hard because you can't assess it easily. It can't be listed necessarily in a list, but knowing whether, if you're doing that, if you're teaching the skill, just doing that is probably enough, rather than trying to teach a whole load of knowledge as well.
Absolutely. So I hope that helps, Priya, and anybody else who is coming across a little bit of pushback about trying to get problem solving into their lessons. Yeah. Final thing for today then, Becky, I thought we'd have a little bit of maths of life. What do you like at escape rooms? Do you have a thought? Do you like them? Are they something that, have you done one before?
Yes, I've done quite a lot of escape rooms. I love an escape room. I've also done, you can buy like boxed escape rooms. I've done a few of them as well. Yeah, I love an escape room, Jon. How about you?
I've done some of the murder mystery type packs that you can get that, come with lots of evidence and those sorts of things. And then with the children, we had one where you actually set up the room like an escape room with puzzles around the room and things, and had to go at that. That was quite complicated, but I did enjoy it. Yes, I love an escape room. I probably not done as many of them as I would have liked, and probably not as many as you. Knowing you and your penchant for puzzles, Becky, I'm not surprised that you like an escape room. But I think they're a really fun thing to do. How long do you think they've been around?
Okay. Well, the fact that you're asking me probably means much longer than I think. I think probably.
Or the opposite.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, I would say they've probably become quite popular, haven't they, in the last 3? No, hold on. I did do one before lockdown. So I'm going to say,
It's interesting, isn't it, that lockdown has become like a fixed moment in time that everybody can think before and after. It's almost like a line in the sand.
Well, it's also a long time ago now. I mean, I was thinking a couple of years, and then actually that was 6 years ago now. I'm going to say about 6 years.
Okay. So whereabouts in the world do you think the first escape room originated? Which
Japan.
Culture? Yes. There you go. Yeah, Japan. Absolutely. So often this is, from what I've been able to glean, obviously these things are not always definitive, but from what I've been able to glean, the first escape room seemed to be in Japan in 2007, and it kind of came out, so nearly 20 years ago now, kind of came out of computer games, and this idea that you could create an immersive computer game. So I think around that sort of time, or maybe just before, there've been lots of brain training games and things that you might play on your handheld devices or on your consoles and things. And they decided that a company called Scrap created the first real escape game in Kyoto, in Japan, and players were physically placed inside a story and had to solve puzzles against the clock in order to win. And then the idea very quickly sort of spread and caught on and spread across Asia and then into Europe and North America. And Scrap, this company, actually took the format to the US in 2012 as well, and it grew from there. So I think I probably first did one probably about 2018, 2019, something like that, maybe. But if you haven't done one before, you essentially usually get locked in a room, and there are clues and puzzles. Normally there's a theme to them. The one that we have in Derby has got sort of a horror theme to most of the rooms, and then there's a pirate one randomly. There's a couple of them actually in Derby that they're pretty good. And I'm lucky that I can go over to Nottingham and Leicester and places as well. They've got them too. There's a brilliant one in Nottingham that was about, it's in an old bank, and it's in the vault of the bank, and you're part of a team robbing the vault, and you have to obviously escape and things. So it's really, really good. Often they open out into adjacent rooms as well. So when you solve a puzzle, you open up another area of the escape room, and they're usually timed and things. But I was just thinking about this, that actually it's a really nice example of how, I'm going to say it again, Becky, problem solving it finds its way into maybe not everyday life, but into our leisure lives. And when you think about those 6 areas that you mentioned with problem solving, working systematically, making connections, spotting patterns, using models sometimes. All of those things are trying a different way of doing it. All of those things are skills that you need in order to be good at solving escape rooms, and not having a fixed way or fixed, because often they try to lead you down a certain way of thinking and then flip it at the last moment, or you have to see things in a different way. And so all of those skills, I thought, actually, we're not just training children to be good mathematicians here. We're training them to be really good at escape rooms and other puzzles as well. And you can use escape rooms in class as well, can't you? I think we've got some resources actually that you set up your own escape room activities and things. They're a nice way of engaging children in puzzles and problem solving. But I think I really like the appeal of becoming a detective, or trying to that immersive gameplay, if you like, of trying to beat the clock and things. And so far, touch wood, I've managed to. I've not failed one yet. I'm not sure if that's down to me or the people that I do it with. Really, I'm not really taking the credit.
Isn't it? There's some sort of underlying skills that build good problem solvers there, like collaboration and communication, perseverance, resilience, which we don't see often when we're thinking about problem solving in the classroom. But all of those, we're teaching all of those as well.
Conjecture, justifying, I wonder what would happen if I do this, and then you have a go at it without fear of, looking silly or being criticised or anything like that, or getting it wrong. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, does it? If you try something and it's not right, it's fine. You try something else. And it's a really different way of doing problem solving, because there isn't that fear of failure at all, really. I know you're up against the clock and there's that slight pressure of trying to get it before the time runs out. But, I mean, there's no real consequence to that, to be honest. You just don't get your name on the board or whatever it is. But it's just, I really like the fact that it's a low stakes, fun, people pay money to do this for fun. They're not thinking, I'm going to go and do some problem solving now. I need to, think mathematically or logically or reason about these things. And there's normally quite a bit of maths in them as well. True maths, think about what we think about when we think about maths. Some of that's usually in there as well, whether it's decoding padlock codes or working with numbers to, create something else that you can access, or deciphering a code of some sort. There's quite a lot of that in there too. So, it's probably not the weather for doing an escape room today, I'll be honest, unless you can find a air-conditioned one.
I did one at Shrewsbury Prison once, where they put us in a prison cell, which was quite interesting. That would probably be quite cool today.
Nice. There's one in Nottingham that's in a cave, actually, as well, because they've got caves under Nottingham. That might be all right today, yeah.
I don't know. Have you ever been in one where that's got a live actor in it, Jon, dressed up?
I don't think so. No, I don't think I have. I've done. We probably talked about this before. I've come across live actors in other immersive things like Alton Towers, Scarefest, and things like that. But I don't think I've done one in an escape room with one. No. How was that?
Terrifying. Actually terrifying. That was in the States. I did that one. When you said, there's nothing really at stake. Well, I was fearing for
it felt like there was. Yeah.
But great fun. I hadn't really thought about, you thought I would have done, thought about the maths and the problem solving involved, but you're right, Jon. It's a perfect low stakes example of problem solving and how
I just, I think it's just a nice way of thinking about how these skills transfer into other areas of life, don't they? And somebody who might think they're not great at maths actually loves an escape room and is really good at solving these puzzles. And you think, well, it's not the maths that you're not great at, then, is it? It's you're obviously able to think about these things in mathematical ways. It may just be the knowledge that you don't have or have forgotten, or confidence. Often, just because something's framed as mathematical, it changes how people think about it. Whereas if you frame it as a puzzle or a game, then people are more likely to feel comfortable having a go at it.
Definitely.
Anyway, I think we've rambled enough for today, but go out and have a go at an escape room if you haven't already. You might just love it. And if you do, let us know. We'll be back next Friday with another Aftermaths episode of the Primary Maths Podcast. If you'd like to get in touch with the show, you can do so. Just email primarymathspodcast@twinkle.co.uk.
Thanks for joining us today, and hopefully we'll see you next time.
Thanks a lot. Take care.